how y'all doing? This is Steve Dash. I was the guy who was Jason in Friday the 13th, Part 2, with the bag over the head. Not like the regular guys. And you're listening to the Tim O and Harley Show.
Welcome to the Tim O and Harley Show.
Thank you for listening to the Tim O and Harley Show. I am Tim O. Over there is my partner in mind crime, Mr. Ben Harley. Say hello, Harley.
What is happening, people?
Ben Hazmat Suit Harley.
You know that's me.
It's funny, you're in Illinois, and you're in Ohio, and I'm in Illinois.
Yeah.
It took me a second there. I've been in my house.
Man, this virus has really got me messed up.
So you're in Ohio, I'm in Illinois.
Yes,
we're on lockdown. We're like the poster kids for like the lockdown.
Man.
And
secret double probation.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of our friends are in the California, the LA area, and they were on lockdown too. I think it's this is a plot against the Tim O and Harley Show and friends.
I think so. I do. I really do. I think there's some sort of underlying scheme, Tim O, as you say.
It's right in front of you. I mean,
yeah.
So, but yes, so we are in.
How else are we going to slow down progress, Tim O?
Exactly. So we're in the coronavirus lockdown, and
oh man.
Off of social media, I can tell you that much. You want to get me off social media, boy? Just get something like this going, and I'm off. So.
Yeah, I haven't been on much lately, mostly because I've been sort of busy and things like that. But yeah, no, during this stuff, no, I'm not even going to attempt it either.
No, I get disappointed in people, so I just kind of, and I don't want to be that way toward people, so I just sort of ignore it, just kind of go away. Don't like to argue about politics around this time. I don't like it any time of the year at all.
No,
I think you can have your ideas and then go vote. That's my personal opinion. You know, the rest of it to me is like a bunch of. I think you're kind of playing into it. Put it to you this way: when everybody's arguing about this stuff, calling each other sheeple, I see a big herd of sheep, all calling each other sheep. So I'm no better than the rest of it. I'm just saying that I kind of see it the same way, but it's a bug, not a bill.
No.
So it's
on
a
Capitol
bug,
Hill
not a
bill.
Either. Beyond all of that, it's let's keep trying to be good to each other and stop hoarding things. And
that's it's one thing that I saw that was being out there fighting the masses at the supermarkets and stuff, which hasn't been too bad. It really hasn't. Right. Now, the first little while, sure, a lot of people went, like you said, they were hoarding stuff. But then they were limiting like 3 to a customer, which I thought that, there's a good idea too, and
should have done that a long time ago. But
but shame on them for thinking that we would actually have some common sense. But
right.
Exactly. But I think I've seen a lot of people helping others out too. So through all of, some of the bad stuff that we've heard, there has been some really good stuff too, and people are looking out for each other. I'm just trying my dad just turned 84, so I've been looking out, calling him whether he wants it or not.
Right.
But just to make sure, checking on him.
Right.
So hell, he should be checking in on me for crying out loud.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, who cares? Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, it's we all know that 106% of our audience are deep thinkers. They got lots of times to get deep into thinking. Lots of time right now to get real deep into thinking and listen to some.
There's a deep catalog of Tim O and Harley.
There is, that's right. So it's a good time to get deep thinking and deep into the Tim O and Harley Show.
Yes. And God bless out there, Tim O.
Yes, you know what, Harley? Well, it's not gonna. We will not be contained. We will not be withheld because next week, no matter what,
will not be the boy in the bubbles.
No, we will. We are still going to have week number or show number. Well, it is week number also, but show number 500 next week. 500.
That's insane.
Yes.
Insane.
Yes. So and to celebrate our March to 500, we have had interviews. Yes, we have had interviews leading up to this, and this week we have part two of our 2-part interview discussion conversation with the the lovely and talented Betsy Baker.
Very lovely and talented.
Yes, Betsy Baker from Evil Dead. So last week we had the first part, which only stands to reason. We are all deep thinkers. We know how this works. And so this week we will have the second part in order as it should be. So the next week we'll have 500. Might have a surprise or two for everybody next week, but looking forward to that. Now let's see. We've also we've had a lot of time at home now. It's getting to that point now. As we record this, let's see here. The space-time continuum. It's March 24th. Now last week we started talking about this whole virus and quarantine stuff, and we told everybody, look, we're a week behind. By the time you hear this, things are going to have changed. Well, they really haven't changed. It's just gotten more of the same, more serious and stuff. So everybody kind of, I'm a social distancing pioneer, Mr. Ben Harley.
Yes, you have turned it into quite the art form.
Yes, I'm well equipped.
You've already been on lockdown, my friend, for a while, right? I think you put yourself on a self-imposed lockdown,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah. 50. Remember, 50 yards away from my driveway is what I refer to as the event horizon. All right, I don't. It is what it is. So, but we've had some time. We've had some time to do some spring cleaning, do some stuff. And Mr. Ben Harley, he went mad with power. He's like the guy. As soon as the teleprompter goes down, he's got a bone through his nose. He's resorted to cannibalism. Ben Harley has gone feral in the matter of minutes, and he started working on his own private cold case files. And he discovered. Now this is true. This is true.
Yes,
I'm
true,
joking around, but this is true. So Mr. Ben Harley sends me a couple links that he discovered that there was some serial murders on his brother's property about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Now they didn't live there. Now that.
Was that him marking his territory or what? I mean,
yeah, right. My brother and sister-in-law aren't suspects, so let's start with that.
So let's start there. Okay, we'll get that out of the way real quick. So tell us the story, Ben Harley, about the creepy story about your brother and sister-in-law's property. Now let's set this up a little bit. So it sounds like they got as much as we have, like 8 acres, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, is it wooded land?
No, there is some a little around there, but no, theirs isn't. They do have a pond and a good-sized barn out there.
So open land.
Like a log cabin house. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us the story. What happened?
Yeah, so my brother sends me a text message the other night. Same thing. Sends me a link to the murder on Brown Road. I was like, oh, wow. But not, when I open it up, I see basically where this murder had taken place. And this was 40 years ago, Timo. So I apologize. 40 years ago.
And your brother's lived on the property for about 20 then?
Yeah, just over 20. So probably going on 25 years.
He moved on. Okay, gotcha.
Basically what had happened is, 40 years ago, a kid was, he was 15. So he'd be my brother's age. Now, he'd be 55, 56 years old. He was found by a gentleman on his way to work, laying face down at the corner of Brown and Lyon Road, which is my brother's lot, and the gentleman phoned police. They came out and found the kid had been shot. He'd been shot 5 times. 5 times.
Yikes.
What had happened is he had been at a friend's house. He'd been walking home down Route 2, which I think you've been on Route 2, Timo, and that takes you to Sandusky and to Cedar Point and things like that. Yeah. So now Route 2 is a long road as well, but he was not on Route 2 very long, and he was just walking to his house. But where he was walking, he was found further on down the road towards where my brother lives, which would have been about, they said 7/10 of a mile, maybe, or something down the road past his house. So he wasn't even going that direction. He would have reached his house before where he was found, from the way he was walking. So either he was picked up or somehow he was taken from Route 2 before his house and left on my brother's property. And the link that I sent you, Tim, was from Channel 11 here in Toledo, and they're doing, they're showing the cold case files of this, which they just reopened. And it was, wow, it's been a while since I had a shiver sent down my box. I never knew about. I don't know even. I have yet to talk to my brother. We miscommunicated the other day. So
no. Let me ask you real quick here. I'm going to interrupt you just to clarify everything here. So there was a kid who was walking home, and he got apparently they don't think he was shot there. That he was picked up, shot, and then dumped out at what is now your brother's property. Yes. Now this was a cold case file, and you said they just reopened. They're just reopening it. So so you don't know yet if your brother's been contacted about this yet, or
I don't. Yeah, and like
because he probably will be contacted at least to give permission to go on the property and look around.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Because they've already done they were showing the cold case being open. They did everything but show my brother's house, really. They showed, and I know the land there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the thing is, the reason this is being reopened is there were brothers here in town in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s called the Cook brothers. And they were considered serial killers. Okay. They were going around. They had kidnapped a few people from that side of town. A boyfriend, girlfriend had been kidnapped by these Cook brothers. And also murdered. They had just ran a story on the Cook brothers. So this young kid that was murdered on my brother's property or left there, sister wanted this to be reopened because she thinks it might be the Cook brothers. The thing is, these other two people that were murdered, the one guy was shot with a rifle 4 times. This kid that was left on my brother's property was shot with a rifle 5 times. Not far from where the other incident happened and not far from where the Cook brothers' sister had an apartment, which that's where they had got the idea to abduct the other 2 kids. So it was not far from my brother's place where, this apartment complex is. So they're starting to piece things together, thinking, well, maybe this could have been the Cook brothers. And they had them so many years back start to talk about things. But I think one of the brothers is dead now in prison, had died.
But one of them's still alive.
Yeah, but this really kind of, and this is weird, Tim, and I there's certain things that I remember like it was yesterday, and it's a lot of stuff from back in this time. I don't really remember the Cook brothers that much. I sort of, but I would have been like 9-10 years old when they had been caught, or once they were doing this and they'd been caught shortly. So they were caught in like 82. So I guess I'd have been like 11, 12. I apologize. So I just don't really remember too much about
now,
this.
How many people did they supposedly kill? I mean, about the one...
9 people.
Oh, 9 people. Okay.
9 people.
Because, so if they're picking people up, they're certainly, if they're shooting them with a rifle.
Yes.
I mean, I would doubt, cars back then were pretty big, but I highly doubt they were shooting people with a rifle in a car.
No.
So you would think they were shooting them somewhere and then transporting them somewhere and then dumping them.
Yeah, they had kidnapped the young couple, and they took them out, and the girl... I don't think she had gotten too far, but the boy had gotten kind of far away, but then they tracked him down and then shot him. So they're thinking probably what I was thinking is they probably had picked up the boy that had been killed on my brother's property. What they'd probably done is picked him up somewhere on Route 2 and said, yeah, we'll give you a ride home. And then once they passed his house, kept right on going, and then I'm not sure exactly. It's kind of rural where my brother is, but there's houses,
But how many houses was there 40 years ago, though, too?
That's what I'm trying. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, though. Back then, though, I'm not sure how many there were because my brother's place, I think there was only one owner before my brother. And I'm not even sure it's the same house that was on that property. You know what I mean? So that could have been an empty lot at the time.
Well, right, because 40 years ago, nothing out here where I live was here.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like my house, of course, wasn't. The house, both houses on either side of me were built by my parents in the last 25 years or so.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And my brother has like a log cabin house. So those really didn't come into popularity until, 30 years or so. You did.
Or so,
when people started. So I'm not even sure who was there. So that's why I talked to my brother a little bit more about this because I'm not even sure they knew about this. You know what I mean? And I was flabbergasted. I cannot tell you what a shock that sent through me watching these reenactments and to see it at my brother's. It was just and seeing like the drones flying. The camera work of the drones flying over the yard and stuff. And just like, oh my God, man, I was just, it sent a shock through me. It did. I was like, and it made me almost want to go out there and like
look around.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. So was it the cops that opened it back up, or was it the television station?
I think after the sister.
Okay,
I think kind of after seeing something about the Cook brothers, she said she'd gone out to the grave and was talking to her brother because he's buried not far from there, where he had been killed, and so she had went to the police, and then they decided to kind of reopen it. So this was called like the 11 Investigates, which they all have. I
understand. Yeah.
So, but I think she was pretty instrumental, and she really wanted to do this for her brother to find justice for him, which it should have been. Right. I mean, come on, man. Like, I have a feeling that's those guys because, trust me, Timo, Toledo is not the best place in the world. At times we're like little Detroit. There's not, but to me, something to happen like that out there doesn't happen quite like that very often.
Yeah.
And it sounds very, very remotely like what those guys were doing, those Cook brothers, and they were doing it all in the same area. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's pretty likely that those guys were probably the ones that did it.
Well, you have to keep us posted on that and see how the investigation goes. I thought that was pretty interesting because at first I'm like, now what do you got your head into? What's going on here?
Oh, man,
I'm like, hold on. You go, I'm opening cold case files. I'm like, what did you get a job with the cops, man? What the hell's going on? And Ben Harley's holding out on me.
I'm investigating. I'm
holding out Harley. That's what I'm going to yell at you next week. Yeah, so
I'm going to do some more investigating on my own. And I just feel bad because I like my brother's place. Timo, it's like coming to your place. It's a pleasant place to be. It's like
bad stuff's happening on this land.
Yeah.
Out here too, though.
Long before
there's a graveyard on our damn property. It's like,
it's funny, but yeah. And I think one of them graveyard has my birth date on it. What the hell? Yeah, I remember that. Being, knowing people that would know this kid, being like my brother's age and stuff like that. It's just kind of. All of it and being now on my brother's, just all hit home. I was like, wow, that's just, so very interesting. And I will keep you posted.
Yeah, keep us posted on that and let us know how the investigation goes. That's very, very interesting. I'm curious to see how if your brother and sister-in-law get somewhat involved, they're going to have to at least be contacted because they're going to want to go out there and do like some kind of metal detectors around the area or something just to start digging things up because, interesting, though. Yeah. Very interesting, Mr. Bud Harley. Well, let's get to, again, while we're doing these interviews, we're not really, usually on the show every week, our little format is we discuss little things we've watched during the week besides our official film. And we've been kind of surpassing that as we've had these interviews and stuff, which I haven't heard one complaint so far about that. So very good.
Yeah.
So we will, again, for your listening pleasure here, we will shut up for a little bit, and we're going to have part two of our interview conversation with Betsy Baker.
Little chit chat.
That's right, with Betsy Baker from Evil Dead. So let's get right here, part 2 with Betsy Baker, Mr. Ben Harley.
Awesome.
So what is your favorite arena to act in? Do you enjoy stage, film, or television?
Wow. Gosh, I don't have an answer to that because I really like all aspects of each, genre. I love the excitement and the anticipation, the nervousness. I'm not so cracked about the live stage. It just puts me on edge, but I just so honor these people that do it every single night, 8 shows a week, and they go out in front of a live audience and they just are bearing their souls. And, I also like the real intimacy of film, and I just love the energy of television. I mean, I truly, truly find different aspects of each, venue that I like. And I'm here in LA, I've been doing improv for the last few years, and I just love it. I'm so old that it's truly, when I was in college, they had no improv classes. If they did, I must have been asleep at the wheel because I never took them. Mm. And so at my age, I'm an anomaly, but I do improv here in LA, and I love it because it kind of feeds that nervousness, creativity that you have to have doing improv, and you're out there, on a stage with other people, giving support and wanting support from the rest of your team on stage. So I like them all. I like them all.
Where and when do you do the improv?
Oh, I do it at a place called West Side Comedy.
Okay.
And it's right in the city of Santa Monica.
Oh, okay. Being an actor, you're obviously known, probably most recognized for Evil Dead. What I find interesting, and I love this, I love the answers to this question no matter what it is. Because I find the answer to normally be no, not really. Do you actually even enjoy horror films?
No, not really.
I knew it.
I don't. I mean, I don't. No. I like mysteries, but I don't like horror films. No.
What goes through your mind then when you're at a convention? Okay. And I know you a little bit, and I know that you're not exactly on the back of a Harley with a bunch of tattoos and stuff like that, but that's a lot of what we see at the conventions. And stuff. And I'm not disparaging people at all for their styles or what they do, but it's a different kind of culture. Well, I mean, what goes through your mind when you have these people come up to you and they're nervous, their hands are wobbly and shaking when they're meeting you, and you would probably be terrified of these people late at night down a dark alley probably, and they're terrified to talk to you because they're nervous. How does that kind of register inside you?
First of all, at conventions, this is in all sincerity, it's so fun going to conventions because you're really meeting people who you don't know, but who feel that they know you. And the fact that we can just be normal people, which we all are, by the way, have a conversation about, whatever, replacing a tire on the car before they came, or where's a good place to go to eat. We're so grateful to meet fans and hear their stories about how they watched Evil Dead or how they love horror movies. And they get so tickled when they find out that I don't like horror movies. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't sit around and say, hey, here's a bowl of popcorn. Let's put on the top 10 horror movies tonight and just have a whole weekend of it. I don't do that. But they're just lovely people. And, they come up to the table and they're kind and they're friendly and they're funny. And I love it. I just love it. I just let them know early on when they ask me. I don't make any bones about it. I don't really like or know a lot about horror movies because that's the thing. They want to ask, what's my opinion on this horror movie and that horror movie? And I'm going, oh gosh, I'm really kind of in a pickle here because I don't know anything.
Conventions are great to me because it teaches everyone not to judge books by their covers.
That's a really good point. Absolutely.
And everyone, because we all think we're right. And we're probably all a little right and a little wrong. But when we all can get together and have this common bond, no matter how we dress, no matter who we vote for, how we think, where we live, I think it's pretty cool to be able to do that and all come together. And that it's interesting because the answer you gave, it's also very common. That no, I'm not into horror movies. But these people, at first, I got to think at first you were probably, the first time you did a convention, you were probably a little not sure what to expect, correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct.
So were you shocked when you realized these people are actually great people and there's so many of them that know who I am and know this movie?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I was shocked. I distinctly recall the first couple of conventions, and friends or acquaintances that know that I go on conventions, that go to conventions, they picture people that go to movie and horror and sci-fi and thriller conventions to be this whole different genre of people that are just, movie geeks and movie fans. And yes, they are. But I have to tell you, they're just everyday people like you and me. And I consider myself an everyday people. Mm-hmm. Certainly consider you an everyday person.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to write this down real quick. Somebody said it. Hang on.
But, they're doctors, they're nurses, mm-hmm. they're raising kids, they're teenagers, we've run into neurosurgeons because we always ask them what they do for a living. And these are just fans that just love, a weekend diversion of watching these kind of films or watching this sort of cinematography. It's a hobby of theirs. It's no different than, if we were at a tulip convention or a flower convention and somebody's just gone crazy over the latest gardenia hybrid,
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hobby to many people. And it's something that people come together and all like at the same time in the same place. And that brings a lot of comfort to people,
right,
that are attending those things. That brings a lot of comfort, and that we're all in the same place together and we all think alike.
I think horror films and fantasy, really anything that isn't about people paying their bills, any kind of interesting film, fantasy, horror, comedy, anything that kind of takes you out of the humdrum reality of every day is the ultimate form of escapism. Uh-huh. And I think a lot of people come up to you because you went on that trip with them.
Yeah.
And so they do think that they know you. And I think to some degree, from my experience, I know the actors always say, you don't know me. We know a part of you.
Yeah.
And we know a piece of you in one piece of time that's captured. Yeah. And I think that it's got to feel great to know that some of that stuff you did is still resonating with people and people's children. And it's got to be wonderful to know that if you never do anything else, you've at least left things behind that will always be there for people to remember. That's got to be a great feeling.
It's a wonderful feeling. And, I think a lot of time has passed as well, that it's almost to the point of, just sitting and reminiscing and going down memory lane. Yeah, it's a great feeling. And to bring people together and to just kind of laugh about it and talk about it and reminisce on both sides of the table, my side of the table and their side of the table. I love to hear these stories about, I first saw the movie when I was 14. I saw the movie during the worst winter snowstorm, in the history of our little town. They're fascinating stories. And what's fascinating is that they remember them all. And I think it's very...
Well, and I tell you, Angie and myself have been a party to a couple of your behind the table conversations and been little flies in the wall, and they've been hilarious. They've been a lot of fun to listen to. So it is fun. It's fun. What I like to see the one thing to me, and it's the Evil Dead films aren't the only franchise of films I see this in, but that franchise to me, you guys are a pretty tight knit group of friendly acquaintances at worst, if not good friends. And I think it's so cool to see you guys all get together, have fun. And I never hear you guys talk. I talk more bad about the people coming up to tables than I ever hear you guys ever say. And I think it's wonderful that you guys genuinely like the fans and love hearing this stuff and genuinely love going to these conventions and giving people a few minutes of your time to allow them to tell you how great you are and how great the movie is. I think it's wonderful. And I think everybody wins in that situation.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I would preface it by saying, who doesn't want to be told they were wonderful or they really, liked my laugh or my acting, I think it goes both ways. I mean, we do get along. Actually, there's only 5 of us in the cast. Mm-hmm. And when the 3 of us, the ladies of the Evil Dead, myself and Teresa and Ellen get together, we have a good time. And we have really acknowledged both behind the table and in front of the table that we're really grateful to have had this time together. And you're right. When you work at a job or when you work on a film or a TV show or any even corporate job, 9 times out of 10, when that job is over or you retire or you move on to another company or another location, you somehow lose those connections, or many people do. And especially in the film and TV business, it's such a transient business. You work for 2 or 3 weeks on something and then that's it. Bye. And we have remained friends and acquaintances and buddies. There was a long time where we weren't in contact. Although I will say, Teresa and I have always been friends, even after Evil Dead. We both lived in Detroit for a while after that, and then I moved to LA, and then she moved to the LA shortly after. And this, by the way, was before those things called cell phones, when you just had to either write a postcard or a letter or find an old phone number to see if you could, find them or contact them. And Teresa and I became very, very good friends over the years. But in reaching out to Ellen and then reaching out to Rich, who played Scotty, it's always fun to see them as well at conventions. And we usually have a couple of big dinners together, a big breakfast. We asked the convention people if we could sit near each other. The ladies of the Evil Dead always spend time with each other. And so, yeah, it's a nice thing. And we realize it and we're really grateful for it.
And it's contagious. People see it, they know it, and it draws people to you guys and wants to have you guys back. So that's a very wonderful thing. And I love seeing it. I have told Danny Hicks a million times that one of my greatest pleasures is taking him to a show or meeting him or helping him out and seeing all you guys get together. And part of what I meant about the franchise too is that I've seen you guys hang out with Danny and Cassie DePaiva and stuff too, and you guys weren't even in the same movie together.
Right.
And there's still the camaraderie because you're still kind of connected. In the fans' eyes, you're totally connected. I know you guys don't see it that way, but it's kind of cool from a fan's perspective and sitting back and watching. All you guys get along and have that much fun together. It makes an older fan like myself feel great because you've always been friends to me, but your characters were. And then to see you guys all act that way toward each other and be so generous to each other and the fans, it's wonderful. Now, I'm going to shift gears here for a second. Here's the big one.
Okay.
Angie's going to laugh when she hears this because this is the big one.
God.
Okay. The Peter Pan commercial. Did you hate that kid? Because I need to tell you something. I was laid up when I first saw that commercial. I had no idea that you did that. Now, was that for Geico or?
Geico, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it was a commercial, for the audience listening, it was the commercial where it's the high school reunion and Peter Pan is in your class, so he hasn't aged. And so he's insulting you and some of your fellow classmates, being a little snot, basically, saying, oh, you don't look a day over, blah, 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 just being a jerk. Now, I was on pain meds and everything, laying in bed. My TV was on. I think I was watching football. And that commercial came on, and I recognized you right away. Now, when that kid talks to you, the look you give, you have to tell me honestly, as an actor to actor, offset, did you really hate that kid?
No, no. First name was Thomas. Yeah, he was amazing. I mean, I think at that time it was shot 13. And by the way, I was not 70 when we shot that commercial. That was obviously the joke.
Right.
I was in my late 50s and said, Joanne, you don't look a day over 70. Am I right?
Well, I tell you what, then you are the best actor I have ever known because I thought you hated me when you gave that look. I was like, I know Betsy a little bit, and I'm pretty sure I've seen that look. I think she hates me now. I think she's watching.
I've definitely given that look to people and family members. But he was he was so sharp, so quick. He was getting direction from the lighting guy, from the camera guy, from the sound guy, and from the, what do they call it? The harness guy, because they flew him in on a big harness on a big crane. And for him to be able to handle that and still be as quick-witted and sharp and give that attitude, it was a really fun day. It was a long day of shooting. It was, to get all the people at the reunion there and have it look like a high school reunion. But it was one of the most seen commercials. It's one of the commercials that's had the most views on television ever. It'd be fun to do a sequel, because some sequels. But I know that some people didn't like Peter Pan. They just thought he was just a really unkind little boy. But that's the fun of the commercial.
Right. I had fun with it. I thought it was a really great commercial. And just like I said, knowing you a little bit, that look, I read that look and I was like, I think she really hates that kid. I really think she hates that kid. Or me, I'm not sure.
That was phenomenal acting.
Yes, it was. It was actually.
God.
Speaking of that, so you seem to be staying very busy acting. What do you think? Are you glad about the way things have kind of evolved in Hollywood, where it seems like, yeah, you have film and television and stage, but now we have this new thing, this streaming series, stuff on Netflix and Amazon and stuff. And I've noticed that you've done a couple of those shows too. Do you find that's a good thing? More jobs for actors and things like that that are being seen, they're being pumped into people's homes and stuff. Are you think it's a good thing, or do you think things are overcrowded?
To me, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I mean, there's so much out there. I mean, I grew up in the last century, and you had, ABC, CBS, and NBC. That's what you had. And when you babysat late at night, as some people my age would remember, and it was 11:30 to 12 o'clock, and the television channels went off the air, and there was that, beep. That's it. That's all you had. And then you had to go into the kitchen or find the book that you were supposed to be reading all night until the family came home, and you had 3 channels to choose from. Now it's mind-boggling. I was looking for something the other day, and there are 2,000 channels on my television. I can still only watch one at a time, folks. Just one at a time. But in terms of the availability of more work, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Is it saturated? I don't know. It's not for me to say. In this business, the more work for actors means the more work for sound mixers and assistant directors and makeup people and hair people and production people and writers. So it's all good as long as we're working or able to find work. It's all good.
Right. So what's next for you?
Well, I have a couple things coming out. Just fun little character roles. I have a show. I'm coming out. I have a little tiny scene on a show called Bless This Mess with Dax Shepard, and a show in the spring coming out called Lucifer, which I play a nun. I know it's a little far-fetched, but again, that is damn fine acting. And, I worked on a feature film a couple of years ago with a very, very small part with Deborah Winger and Evan Rachel Wood called Cajillionaire, and that was just at Sundance in the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So it's all, we just keep moving along. And I also teach, I teach vocal music to elementary school children at a few schools where I live. And so that keeps me busy as well. It's always a concert or always a performance or always songs to be sung, as they say.
Do you enjoy working with the kids?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's, it's a lot of work, but I love it. And for them to come into the room the next week and be singing the song that we worked on the week before, I have to tell you that, that gives a music teacher a lot of joy. Right.
So what about, is there any upcoming appearances for Ladies of Evil Dead at a convention?
We just actually do maybe 1, 2, or 3 a year, and it's still early. Mm-hmm. So we don't have anything on our calendars right now, but we're looking into some possibilities. And there's been discussion of some other things, possibly brewing in the wind. Mm-hmm. But nothing that, nothing that's firm. So I don't like to jinx anything like that.
Right, I hear you.
But yeah.
So there's things a brewing. Nothing announced yet, correct?
Nothing announced yet. Announced yet. Absolutely. Well, there's a tease for you, right?
Yes, exactly. So, well, thanks for sitting down, Betsy, or standing, whatever you were doing, and talking with me today, and much appreciated. I can tell you, as a young man who had a little crush on Betsy Baker when he saw Evil Dead the first time, it's very nice to know you. And I'm very glad we've become friends. And I certainly hope that we get to see you guys very soon, because I know Angie and I have a ball when we're hanging out with you guys. So hopefully one of these events or something will come to fruition, and it'll be close enough that we can get to it, because that would be fun.
Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun. We love you and Angie. And oh my gosh, I'm still ruminating about the fact that you had a crush on me when you were younger. So I'm assuming that's gone now, right?
I'm married now, so I can't talk. I'm a good boy now.
And I know who you're married to.
That's
and I
right.
spent time with her as well. So.
And you guys, at the end of the day, if it all came together, you guys would just gang up on me anyway. I know how you ladies work. So.
Oh yeah, we would.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Like no question. Like duh. But this has been so much fun. I could sit here. Let's just talk for a few more hours. I could just sit here and talk with you for a few more hours.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, we'll have you back on sometime. Especially, I'll tell you what, when some of these other things come to pass, whenever you can announce some things, maybe we'll have you back on for a few minutes so you can talk about them and promote.
Oh yay! Well, thanks for having me. This has been really a lot of fun.
Good. All right. Well, thanks, Betsy, and we'll have you back on soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Ben Harley.
Timo, Betsy Baker.
Betsy Baker. Thank you so much, Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy. Seriously.
Again, going back in a few weeks, thank you, Mark Diamond, for coming back on the show. And very interesting stuff. You know, and I know that people would probably expect I just would spend an hour talking to her about Evil Dead, which is clearly not what we did. It was a lot about her career and her life and stuff. And I find that a little more interesting. I think if you want to know about Evil Dead, and ironically, I'm pretty sure that Mark Diamond during one of our interviews used Evil Dead as an example of special features on discs. I mean, the movies come out every other year pretty much on a new edition.
New format.
There's really not many stones unturned. Believe it.
Yes.
Believe me. Believe me.
You're right.
I mean, you know, so for at least the first two films, there really is not a stone unturned. So, but the actual actors and their careers and their lives and stuff, I find that very interesting. And it's amazing to me too to see some of these people who are really mostly known for a certain movie, a horror film, at least to us in our community, and then to discover and discuss the amazing careers that they've had that might not have been right out in the public eye, but they were right there still at the same time, and it's just very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I love seeing the people or hearing their trajectory or where they started and how they went and certain things that changed or certain things that happened good for them that changed their trajectory too, or or breaks that they got, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Well, if you don't,
if unexpectedly or something.
Exactly, because if you don't really dig in, you think that, oh wow, these people were in this movie and then they went on and lived their lives and that was it. Well, no, that's not true. Yeah. They were working actors. I mean, all these people pretty much, at least for a while, were working actors, and some of them went on to different careers. But the ones that still were actors, it's amazing to hear the incredible careers that they had, and stuff.
Yes.
So it's just like anything else. There's only there's Bruce Campbell. He went on to do whatever he went on, but it wasn't like the other people just went home and shriveled up and, did nothing. Yeah. I mean, everyone worked a lot. So it's very fascinating, very fun. We know this from having Danny Hicks on the show with us a lot, our Third Wheel in Mind Crime. He's got a long, illustrious career too. And most people know him from basically 3 movies, Darkman, Intruder, and Evil Dead 2. But he's done so much more than that, so very, very fascinating. And again, thank you, Betsy.
Thank you
Mark
very much.
And everyone else for sticking with us. Yes, this long, and we hope you've enjoyed the month of interviews here that we've had to break up the monotony of us.
Of us.
Of us, period. Right, exactly.
Of us, period.
Speaking of monotony, let's get to our official film for this week, Mr. Ben Harley. From 1961, we have the British film Dr. Blood's Coffin.
Dr. Blood's Coffin.
Yes. All right. Let me get you out, movie guy, here and give you a short one-sentence storyline synopsis. Here we go.
Okay.
People are mysteriously disappearing near a remote Cornish village where a scientist is experimenting with reviving the dead. Okay. So.
That he is.
Yes, he is. Let's see, starring Chiron Moore. You might know Chiron. He plays Dr. Peter Blood in this. Listen, Dr. Peter Blood, I don't like that name. Moving on, he is also the star of The Day of the Triffids. He was the guy in The Lighthouse. So he was the part of the Day of the Triffids that they added because the movie was so damn short that they had to.
We need more.
Yeah, they have an epic end of the world movie that was awesome. That was only an hour long, so they had to add a little bit. So he's from that, and Cracking the World, which is another good Tim and Harley Show favorite. Let's see here. Of course, we have the curvy and wonderful Hazel Court. As the nurse
and how
Linda Parker, you know her from Hammer and Roger Corman cleavage films. Let's see here, and directed by the Canadian of all things, Sidney J. Furie. I call him Sidney J. Furie. It's Furie. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. He did the Ipcress File. I'm sorry. Good movie. The Appaloosa. The Entity. Okay. But then he also did Superman 4, Quest for Peace, and Iron Eagle. He had a rich and varied career. So he was a working director. Let's put it that way. He did a lot of movies. So I mean, when his name pops up, it's a unique name to begin with, but very interesting.
Yeah. So
this is basically what I like to refer to as a standard mad scientist version of Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Now, I don't think, nor is it implied that in the original story of Frankenstein, that Frankenstein was mad. It was not mad. I mean, it was not crazy at all. But these movies take from that and then create the scientists as being mad. Mad scientists. And this movie, I think, spends too much time on one thing and not on the other. And I'm going to let you discuss this a little bit. I think it spends too much time on peeling back the layers of the madness of the scientist and not enough at all of what he wants to or intends to create.
True.
So whereas in Frankenstein, the story, you get a scientist or a doctor, what have you, who creates a creation about midway through the story, and then he spends the rest of it dealing with what he has done. In this one, it's sort of like, am I supposed to wonder who the bad guy is here because they're acting like it? And then at the very end, he creates something monstrous to keep it a horror film. And I think that should have been switched a little bit. I don't think it was hidden too much who the mad scientist was, and the creature wasn't too bad. He's just too bad he was only at the end.
Right. I will say, like, the character of Dr. Blood, Peter Blood.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that name.
Yeah, Peter Blood. Yeah, he at first, because he's a generally likable fella. Yeah. He really kind of is, but I just think one thing, it took a little too long for him to go mad, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a slow simmer. Mm-hmm. Now, at first, I was laughing to myself. I thought they should have called it Dr. Blood's Tunnel, because you get a lot of tunnels in there. And I'm like, when's the Coffin going to show up?
I like tunnels. Tunnels can be creepy.
I like tunnels, too. But I don't know. I was waiting for the Coffin. Right. But there were a couple parts, though, where he's kind of explaining to, it's Hazel Court, right?
Yeah.
Her character about when he was at school and things like that, or where he was practicing and he was trying to,
Well, the film starts off with Dr. Peter Blood. I don't like that name.
Peter Blood.
He's working. He's clearly experimenting on someone or something. And an older professor, doctor guy, comes in and says, "Oh, no. You're tampering with nature. You can't do that, blah, blah." And so he gets upset. So he's set up immediately as your typical mad scientist, mad doctor type guy. So he does explain that people are holding him back.
Exactly. They should hold him back. Right. And why should? Because it really kind of shows his superiority complex, where not so much that he's just so much superior than these people, but his work is superior. That these people, he's just gonna be down at the bar drinking his life away. So why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't I be able to use him? He doesn't need his body as much as I do.
Yes,
he doesn't deserve his body as much as I do, and science does.
I felt that way about Hazel Court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she don't need it as bad as I do either. Oh wait, yeah, they took a few times to have her bend over some filing cabinets, and I thought, oh man, now come on. Now you just set me up, man, to make me feel like I'm something.
Right, yeah.
And whatever. I don't know. But yes, it took a little while, but I did like that part because it did start to show him. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're starting to step on the gas a little bit more. And then he takes her down to the tunnel for a very awkward scene.
Yeah, it was
very awkward. Where I was like, I mean, it was good. It was good scene, but I felt icky. I was like, oh man, I want to leave now.
Well, not only that, but you're kind of like, how stupid is Hazel Court?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He kind of shows his cards there, and then out of nowhere, some salty sailor guy like comes out of nowhere and interrupts the violence. Basically, like nothing happens, and then Hazel Court just kind of brushes off what just happened. So basically, Chiron Moore takes her down into his doomed tunnels and starts menacing her, and then they're interrupted.
She'll never leave.
Yeah, they're interrupted by. I thought that was one of the boom operators or something, but they're interrupted by a guy out of nowhere, and then it's just kind of brushed aside. I'm like,
it's almost like something too, like what it's weird because it was unexpected. Like the wheels came off like abruptly right there because he's just like, you're not going anywhere, and it's stuff that you won't. Timo, if you want to end a date early or things like that, or never see a woman again, take her into a room, lock her in, or take her into a tunnel and say, you ain't ever leaving again.
I know. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, you already know how that is going to end. So I was like, what the hell is going on here, man? Like, I don't know. Right. But it was a very telling scene. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess it was for me. I was like, whoa,
and that's what's weird about it too. Because it's like, it's almost as if the way the story was like realized that the big end crescendo was going to be the creation that he was going to make. And so I guess they were thinking, well, what do we do to keep it interesting? On the way there, they're like, well, why don't we just throw into doubt who is who? Well, the problem is if you've ever watched a movie or read a children's story, you can see immediately who's who. It's not well hidden except from maybe the other characters in the film. But you could almost buy that if you felt like they really were hiding it from the other characters in the film. But when you're getting menaced in a tunnel, you ought to think, maybe this guy ain't all right. And seems like it'd be pretty easy to catch the guy and what he's doing too and stuff. Yeah.
Well, then he starts going after others too. Like he needs other people. Like he get his dad's buddy. Starts because he finds out what he's doing. Doesn't he comes down to the tunnel. Yes. Doesn't he find them in the tunnel and
he went down there and tried to shame him. He tried to shame him. So you're not doing the right thing.
And then he ended up next on the slab. So so there's a lot of smarminess there, but it took a little too long to get to that smarminess a little bit. Like, and I think you're right, Tim. There was enough payoff for the smarminess.
There is payoff, but it's just so short-lived.
It's just not enough.
Well, and I think what hurts is that it's actually pretty decent. Like the creation, the corpse, or the creature, whatever you want to call it. I mean, is pretty decent, not too bad, and fairly menacing and stuff. But you just set it up to. It's almost like creating a guy and go wrestle. Let's wrestle. Like I've always wanted somebody to wrestle with. Let's do it, and it just doesn't. There's no suspense. Yeah. And that's a problem. Like, and they try to build the suspense based off of who is who in the film, but you know who is who. So it's not really working real well. What I do like
it was her ex-husband, wasn't it? Not ex-husband, her husband, and that's who he resurrected, wasn't it?
So well, and the thing is that look, what I like about these things is that it's played straight and well made. Yeah. It's a quality chiller from the UK. Listen, I think some of these 60s and 70s non-Hammer British films are sorely overlooked. Yeah. And they're much better than the stuff that was coming out from the USA, in my opinion, at that time. I think they're much better. So this is an awful script. It's not a great story. It's not very interesting. But here's the thing. It's made really well. I mean, it's made, the acting, the performances are very good. And everything is holding it together, except you're sitting there watching it, almost wondering what you're not seeing. And then the movie ends, and you're like, no, I saw everything. And it pulls you along because you're like, there's got to be something here that I'm not detecting. There's something that's but no, there's not. It's really all there in front of you. And it's a bit of a disappointment. I'll tell you what, if they wouldn't have any payoff at all at the end of this movie, I'd be kicking it like a baby seal. I'm telling you right now, I'd be just kicking her in the head. I'd be like, oh, God.
Well, the thing is he ends up getting mad at her, right? Because she finds out won't work with him, won't go along with him. So then, madness, so then he digs up her dead husband. Mm-hmm. And then
Well, and here's the thing too. There's a bit much emphasis on the soap opera-esque crap, doomed romance between Peter Blood. I don't like that name, and
Peter Blood.
Hazel Court, and I think it's the audience isn't buying it, so maybe that's
you
part
like
of
Hazel Court in any name.
I don't think the audience is buying it because I think they're trying to build suspense via their romance. Like if maybe the people who know that Chiron Moore is bad are not going to be good. I just don't think it's enough, and I don't think horror fans are real into the romantic suspense type of stuff. I will say one thing: there's a nice moment when Chiron Moore toward the end, when he's putting on the surgical mask to do like his final experiment type of thing, and he has this moment of like a snap into it. Well, like where he's looking like he's having doubts. Am I doing the right thing? Yeah. And he snaps out of it, and then he puts the mask on. So it's almost like sanity almost taking over, as opposed to insanity taking over. And it's a very small moment, but it's one of those things I noticed. And I was like, that's a good little moment. That's a good acting moment to see because you see that there is some sort of internal struggle inside Peter Blood. Don't like the name. So I thought that was really interesting. But again, I still think this would have been much better had he created that sooner, a la the Frankenstein story, and then allowed that to maybe murder some people around or menace Hazel Court more.
A little more.
Even more of a monkey's paw type of thing would have been cool. You know, something along that line, but it's so straightforward and dry.
Yeah, it's a little dry. Mm-hmm. It's a little dry, for sure.
I can forgive a lot of the British films for being like that because that's just a drier populace. You know, I get that. It's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of the colors and things in the old Hammer movies more than make up for that. But it's just a little too in your face. It's, you know,
a little.
What wins is that you like Chiron Moore. You don't really want him to be a bad guy because you kind of dig him. You're kind of thinking that you want to follow this guy, you know, and stuff, and you don't really want him to be a bad guy. So maybe you might be playing tricks on yourself, thinking this guy's okay. But clearly, if you just open your eyes and watch the story,
he is who
he is, you know. Yeah.
Oh, he's awful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this before?
No.
Really? Okay. No. Yeah. I think it's up on Prime a lot. I'm not sure if it's a public domain, if it's fallen into public domain or not.
I've heard of it. Yeah. I've heard of it, but
not real sure. It's got really good poster art.
Dr. Blood's Tunnels.
Yeah. Well, it's got really good poster art. It's got good. Actually, everything is good except for the script or the story and how it's constructed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I can't poop on it though. Like I can't not totally poop on it.
No. Nor can I. I just think I'm going to go with you on this one. The doomed romance stuff just wasn't holding it together. I think
cut 15 minutes out of it. God damn, it was 90 minutes long. Then, you don't need to be that long anyway for this kind of movie. I mean,
no. And it could have been a little bit more menacing. Like I said, the parts I did like is when the wheels were starting to come off. You know, but it just took too long. And then at that point, it's like, I don't really hate this guy that much, but I'm starting to. Mm-hmm. Well, he did dig up her husband. That's pretty that's a dick move, you know, totally dick move. But you know,
I wouldn't do that shit to nobody.
I would do that. No, that's really a dick move. But still, like I don't know, you know. But it just it lacked a little something, there, you know. So, but I can't poop on it either. I'm gonna give it a mild great baby.
I am too. Just for the fact I think it was well made. I mean, I don't think they could have. If you had the script sitting there, I don't think they could have made this any better.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't think they could have made it any better. I like Hazel Court. I like Chiron Moore. I like him in Crack in the World, and I really like him a lot in Day of the Triffids. I like his story in The Lighthouse more than I do them roaming across the countryside, on the mainland. And so maybe part of what I don't like is I don't know if Chiron Moore was casted correctly.
Sure.
It's like you almost like him too much to like you almost don't believe it. It's hard to buy into his insanity. And I know you like the descent into madness, and I think what may bother you too a little bit is that it didn't really descend. He just was hiding it the whole time, and then would forget he was hiding it. Yeah, and then or forget, and then start acting insane, and then reel it back in real quick. And it's okay, but and they really tried too hard. I mean, even the shot of his area that they were using to try to obscure who it was. You know what I'm talking about? Like when they had a point of view. First of all, again, I don't like the name Dr. Peter Blood. I didn't like the shots of his area either. But it was like, who the hell else would that be? I mean, come on. It's like, I don't think they spent enough time on the tortures and horrors of the tunnel. Because he has some sort of chemical. It's like a voodoo zombie chemical, right?
Right.
So he uses it sort of like in a chloroform type of way. So where he
does it smell like chloroform to you?
Yeah. So he puts people out, and people think they're dead, and then he takes the people and then starts experimenting on them. So there's a little bit of a Burke and Hare thing going on too, with the kind of a grave robbery type of thing. But it's like that's kind of creepy because there's like a guy trying to crawl across the floor for safety and stuff. But they don't emphasize it enough to where you're really getting creeped out by this. They show it, they let you know it's there and it's occurring, but they don't stick with it long enough to be really upset about it and stuff, And I wish they would have done that more. And part of that, I think, is they're still trying to obscure who it is.
Yeah.
But then you watch, like, why are they doing that? They're showing you who it is and then obscuring at the same time. It's setting you up for what you think might be a twist, but there is no twist.
There is none.
Yeah, not really. Nothing. Not twisty twist. I mean, so. But again, I still can't poop on for it was made as a classy film for what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I think so, and it was, and I think I kind of liked what they were going for. It just
I do too. Yeah.
I just think it needed him to be a little bit more mad at times, like because the way he acted down in that tunnel, I was like, oh, this guy, what a creep, man!
Mm-hmm.
Like because I felt bad to the point where I felt bad for his father because his dad like believed in him and all this, and he's a good, and no, he's a creep, creep. It also was a dick move, and that I thought, besides, digging up Hazel Court's husband, but was operating on his father's friend who was, only trying to be helpful to him also through the movie.
Right.
So those were the things to me that made him more of a jerk than some of the other stuff. But, it's like, but it wasn't quite enough.
No, it's frustrating because everything's there. Because like you said, we're not even going to poop on the movie. And it's a great team of people came together. Unique, really, because Chiron Moore, I mean, I like seeing him. He isn't there every time you see a movie. And it's like, and you got Hazel Court, so she's no stranger to these kinds of films. And it looks good, and it's shot well, and the acting's good. And you got a kind of a misguided script. Yeah, this almost seems like one of those stories that, people, this bothers me. It's almost like when people say like zombie movies, I like it because it's about the people. You know how that gets to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I also don't like it when people they make a horror film like, well, we wanted to make something different, not like a normal horror film. Oh, you mean like you wanted to make it not scary?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, we're making a horror film, but we're not horror film makers.
Yeah.
You see. So we're going to make something a little more classy. And when I hear things like that, the first thing I think is Rosemary's Baby.
Yep.
And why I don't like it. There you go. So, this is way better than Rosemary's Baby, in my opinion. That's my opinion, not yours, my opinion. But anyway, so I'm going to give this the mildest of mild Grape Apes up, and not really up. I'm just not pooping on it. Is what it is, and for those reasons. But it's not something you're going to want to watch all the time. It is, I believe, available on Prime. It's a good time waster. Look, we got a lot of time to waste over the next, I'd say, 2 weeks to a month at least in this country. So, I mean, it is on Prime. Give it a look. See if you want I don't know. If you've seen everything else, because that's really where this is at. Like, if you've seen everything else, you're like, well, I haven't seen it before. Timo and Harley said, nah, and I'm feeling a kind of mood. You could do worse, but
for sure,
you could do a hell of a lot better. Though,
if you're a completist or something, you know, this might be
right.
You'll definitely. If you're, I mean. I don't think my time was really wasted, you know, and I'm glad I've seen it. It's not one I'm going to probably go back, though, and watch very often.
Right.
But
I think I'll watch it again, but you're right. I won't do it. I won't do it real soon.
But as a curator, Timo, it is definitely worthy of your collection.
That's true. That is a library-worthy film.
Yes,
you're correct. That's why I'm not totally... And a lot of movies I poop on and you poop on are still
they're
library
still
worthy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And they need to be. These need to be. And it's not... Hey, you know what? And there might be a lot of people out there that do like them. It's not just because Tim and Harley.
Absolutely. Like The Hills Have Eyes we talked about a couple weeks ago.
And that's the same thing. That is definitely library worthy. It has to be.
Right.
It's one of those that's just, you know.
And we're shocked we didn't like it. I mean, so it's because I think we have liked it in the past. And maybe we go back to it in another time and like it again. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened, but both of us had the same reaction almost. You know,
and Timo, you and I both have pretty thick skin because we're both big fans of Prophecy.
Right.
You have to have a thick skin to defend that film. And for me, too, with Orca, I mean, I still love. Well, you do, too. I know you do. I'm saying it's like you have to have thick skin to defend some of these films that you and I enjoy.
Right.
So it's all right.
We understand.
It's all right.
Yeah, we totally understand. So, all right. Exactly. Let's get out of here, Mr. Ben Harley. Thank you,
Rock
Betsy
roll,
Baker, again for being on the show. Next week, we got number 500. So all you deep thinkers, get to deep thinking, get to listening.
Yeah.
There's some old shows you haven't listened to yet. There's little surprises in all those shows. You know, when we put up the description of the episode, anyone who listens regularly knows we're leaving about everything out. Everything out. You don't know what you're going to hear. So give it a try. You know, what else you got to do? All right, all you deep thinkers. Let's see, next week, episode 500, might have a surprise or two. Check it out. Listen in.
That's true.
Till then, stay spooky, and we'll talk to you then.
Keep it creepy, people.
You've been listening to the Timo and Harley Show, brought to you by ScreenPrintingFactory.com, your affordable one-stop solution to all your screen printing needs.